listen here as the star, Rachel Zegler, does a massive backflip.
There is a message that's been carried on for almost 90 years now from the original animated classic.
She's gone from bagging the original story to saying it's an example to admire.
There are messages in both films that everyone needs to hear. It's timeless. That's what makes it a classic.
Weird.
There's a lot of responsibility there, and so you have to take excellent care of the classic versions of these stories that people care so deeply about.
Weird.
I think it's a very human thing to not always see the bright side, but that is part of the beauty of Snow White. It has been for 88 years now that she just sees the good in everyone and everything.
And she's in fact going to be a girl boss feminist who don't need no man.
Let's check in with the star of the movie, Rachel Zegler, being totally normal here.
Disney's worst investment ever in the history of Disney investments.
I'm off the deep end. That's my party trick.
But also just the values of Snow White, the kindness, her beauty, the way she treats wildlife and all of the people that she meets. It's a timeless concept, and I think that's why it continues to mean so much to people.
Weird.
The cartoon was made 85 years ago, and therefore it's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power.
I think you're a piece of crap.
Disney's Snow White has been a box office disaster.
I don't need your business.
You know what? Maybe Disney does.
Rachel Zegler hurt the film's box office with her actions.
She has been sabotaging this film for years at this point.
I had a song for Snow White and Jonathan, like for the love story. It was Cowboy Like Me. So I would love to tell the folks at home, I would love that.
Rachel Zegler's sudden pivot was like watching someone slam the brakes mere seconds before a head-on collision. One moment, she's tearing into the original Snow White, calling the prince a creep, and telling the world that nobody wants a sappy love story anymore. The next, she's all sparkles and sunshine, waxing poetic about how timeless the fairy tale is and how much admiration she suddenly has for the classic. It was a jarring whiplash that made everyone wonder if she thought the audience had collective amnesia. After all the mocking comments, the eye rolling at the 1937 film, and those interview clips dismissing the old-school charm, she expects people to believe she's been Team Disney all along? The internet wasn't having it. Comment sections lit up with folks accusing her of reading from a script penned by Disney's PR department. Some called her insincere, others labeled her an outright fraud. And the worst part? None of it felt like genuine remorse. It was the textbook definition of damage control, and it only highlighted how tone-deaf the entire production had become.
There's been so much buzz about this and about you. What's it like hearing people say all these really nice things?
It's very validating. A lot of hard work has gone into this film, but so much love.
What really stung was the timing. Her newfound appreciation for the original story magically appeared right after social media went nuclear. Her earlier interviews had already done their rounds across YouTube and TikTok, gathering millions of views from outraged Disney fans. By the time she tried to reverse course, the public was done listening. It wasn't just about her comments anymore, it was about what she represented. A modern Hollywood star hired to lead an iconic fairy tale, yet brazenly trashing the material that made her character legendary in the first place. To many, it felt like she was spitting on the legacy of Snow White while collecting a Disney paycheck. And as word spread, the fury only grew.
You know, other movie companies are going to look at her and they're going to say box office poison. A lot of this is due to her behavior leading up to the film's release.
Absolutely. She is just uniquely unlike.
You want to trash that legacy? That company that now Disney has screwed up the last 5 years trying to please a small percentage of minorities in America? Yeah, we're sick of it. So the more you do this, Disney, Iger, Rachel Zegler, whatever her name is, yes, this is exactly the backlash you're going to get from parents who have kids who are your customers. You're talking to kids? The parents pay for the tickets. If I'm Bob Iger, you know what we're doing? Emergency meeting, because you just screwed this thing up.
163,000 rating, 1.6 out of 10.
You've got to reject men. They have to be painted as toxically masculine. You have to spit on true love. Like, that is not a value that is universal.
Disney's top brass had to be in panic mode. Here was their leading lady, presumably hired to appeal to a younger, more progressive audience, turning a beloved classic into a soapbox for personal grudges. The meltdown wasn't confined to Zegler either. The overall film was hemorrhaging goodwill faster than you could say happily ever after. Early promotional material only stoked the flames, with marketing angles that veered hard into rewriting the story for modern times. Fans labeled it lecturing and preachy, accusing Disney of sacrificing the fairy tale's heart in favor of checking off some imaginary list of trendy social talking points. Then came the leaked rumors that Rachel's abrupt turnaround might have been a direct order from Disney higher-ups who realized that they were staring down a box office disaster. If true, it only confirmed what many suspected, that this wasn't an actress having a genuine change of heart, but a last-ditch effort to save a sinking ship.
Because you just can't close your mouth. You just can't be sane. I think this girl does not deserve a feature-length film. She deserves to be in a padded cell.
160-something thousand reviews with a 1.6 stars. Absolutely embarrassing.
You know, they say that numbers talk, BS walks. People are screaming, Disney, get it together. Who is the Disney's customer? You talk about this all the time, Pat. It's families and it's parents who are paying for their kids to go to movies or go to theme parks or buy products. And you have parents looking at Disney being like, what are you doing, guys? Like, this is supposed to be a place where magic happens, and all you're doing is indoctrinating kids, and you're having this person be the poster child of the Democratic Party. She is basically the AOC of Disney.
Meanwhile, critics smelled blood in the water. Usually, large outlets tread carefully around major studios like Disney to maintain good relationships, but the meltdown was too big to spin. Headlines described the film as a box office implosion and a catastrophic miscalculation. Analysts pointed out how Disney had built its empire on timeless stories that united families across generations, and that dismantling the very essence of those classics was an idiotic gamble. Pair that with Zegler's relentless negativity toward the original plot, and you had a recipe for a PR nightmare. It got so bad that even traditionally Disney-friendly publications started questioning whether the company had lost its magic altogether. And, as if to pour salt on the wound, the negative press led to an avalanche of more negative press. Bloggers and YouTubers jumped on the bandwagon, dissecting every Rachel Zegler interview, every corporate statement, and every cringeworthy attempt at walking back her words.
No longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White.
That laugh.
That is
Not going to be saved by
You
the
wrote
prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
God forbid a woman dream about true love. We're all just sitting around here, maybe I could be president one day. I hate men, I just want to be president. That screams Disney princess. Oh my God, I'm literally getting enraged. Once again, I feel like I'm back in 2022.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Say it louder so your other eye can hear you.
Yeah, the entire film's about a love story. It's about a love story because that's what the point of the film is. And I'm sorry that chivalry in a man pursuing you is now deemed as stalking, which now it's kind of making sense why men are opting out of the dating scene.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. I watched it for the first time in probably 17 years.
On the original production, I was scared of it. Oh, it was so weird. It was the stalker. Like, I feel like if you are taking on the most iconic Disney role ever, genuinely, like this was the most prolific Disney film, I feel like you should kind of have some sort of reverence for the original production.
Then came the Disneyland fiasco. In one of her now infamous interviews, Zegler openly complained about being recognized while waiting for the Snow White ride. She joked about being a narcissist, but it came off as flippant and almost hostile toward fans. Fans she seemed to blame for her discomfort. Seriously? You're playing one of the most iconic princesses in the Disney arsenal. You're raking in the paychecks, and you're shocked people might want a photo? That interview clip circulated like wildfire, and the backlash was swift. People labeled her ungrateful and entitled. They pointed out that older Disney legends, like the voice actresses for classic princesses, took immense joy in meeting fans. Zegler's attitude, however, felt downright resentful. It was another nail in the coffin of public opinion.
Have you ever been to that Snow White ride at Disneyland?
I get stopped for photos every time I'm online for the Snow White ride, and I have to pretend like, oh God, crazy that we're in front of this. Because every time they come up to me, I'm always online for this freaking ride, and they think it's like I'm standing there waiting for the photo op, being like,
wait, how often are you in line for the Snow White ride?
I'm a narcissist.
At that point, it wasn't just fans who had an axe to grind. Fellow actors and industry insiders started whispering too. They wouldn't dare say it on the record, but rumors floated around that future directors and producers were hesitant to work with someone who courted so much controversy. It wasn't just about being outspoken, it was about disrespecting a cultural mainstay and alienating an entire fan base. Some film analysts predicted that Zegler's star power might dim quickly, despite her early success, because studios wouldn't want the baggage that came with the publicity storms she tended to generate. Harsh, maybe, but the entertainment world is notoriously fickle, and negative headlines usually carry a steep cost. While all this was happening, Disney faced a bigger crisis: the growing perception that the entire brand had become more interested in political messaging than storytelling. CEO Bob Iger didn't help matters when he admitted that focusing on so-called inclusion was merely a commercial move. It was no secret after that. Fans took it as proof that Disney was basically trying to score woke points to pad its bottom line. People who supported genuine diversity felt betrayed. People who detested forced messaging felt vindicated. In the end, Disney managed to anger both sides of the aisle. Some critics claimed that in trying to please everyone, they ended up pleasing no one, tarnishing a legacy that had once been synonymous with family-friendly magic.
Talk about what we want to make, and I felt that it was time for Marvel's storytelling to much better reflect the world we were doing business in. I'm a big believer in that, whether you call it diversity or inclusion. But the bottom line is that doing so is good for commerce. It was good for commerce.
As the film's release neared, there was almost a morbid curiosity. How bad could it get? Well, it got worse. Early box office projections plummeted. And when opening weekend numbers arrived, they were downright embarrassing. Commentators joked that the Seven Dwarfs could have counted the audience on their fingers. The film sank quickly, overshadowed by other studio releases that didn't carry the same baggage. Nobody was shocked. Even people who normally root for Disney found themselves shrugging and saying they did this to themselves. The meltdown had been so public and so relentless that there was no coming back. By that point, the conversation wasn't even about money. It was about the reputation of a once unassailable entertainment titan. Could Disney still claim to be the guardian of childhood wonder after trampling on the very principles that built its empire? In the aftermath, rumors spread that Disney might do a sudden pivot and resurrect more traditional storytelling. Some speculated that the next classic reboot would steer clear of political landmines, focusing instead on the old-school charm that made these tales beloved in the first place. But would anyone believe them? After the fiasco with Snow White and the meltdown featuring Rachel Zegler's endless string of unfortunate quotes, trust seemed to be at an all-time low. Some hardcore fans clung to hope, imagining a future where Disney returns to form with enchanting musicals and heartfelt narratives. Others predicted the brand would just double down, continuing to chase headlines and social media buzz instead of re-embracing what truly made them legendary: timeless stories told with sincerity. No matter what happens next, one thing is clear: Rachel Zegler's train wreck of a performance, both on-screen and off, left a mark. She didn't just upset a few Disney loyalists. She represented the clash between modern Hollywood's agenda-driven approach and the nostalgic longing of a global fan base. She became a lightning rod for controversy, overshadowing anything positive the film might have had to offer. When future film historians look back on Disney's string of failures during this era, it's almost certain that her name will pop up as a cautionary tale. Don't hire someone who despises the very story they're tasked with bringing to life, unless you're prepared for the inevitable fallout. So here we are, staring at the wreckage of a movie that was supposed to be a sure thing. People love Snow White, right? It should have been a slam dunk. Instead, it exposed every crack in Disney's carefully constructed image. And if a single actress, backed by a clueless marketing team, could ignite this level of fury, it raises serious questions about how far Disney has strayed from its own roots. Will they learn the lesson? Or is this just the beginning of another endless cycle of controversy, forced apologies, and hastily reworked scripts? That's the million-dollar question, or maybe the billion-dollar question, considering how badly Disney was banking on Snow White to be a massive success. Maybe the company will bounce back by embracing authenticity and respecting the material that made it great. Maybe they'll keep fumbling, driving more fans away, and maybe Rachel Zegler will make another abrupt, whiplash-inducing pivot. Because, hey, that's apparently her specialty. But what do you think? Has Disney destroyed its own legacy beyond repair? Or can the House of Mouse still salvage the magic that once captivated generations?